On the 100th anniversary of the Spanish flu pandemic, flu stats are soaring. So far this year has been a doozy, and questions are still flying on what to do if you get the flu and the best ways to avoid it. Dr. Ken Redcross, board-certified internal medicine physician, is here to help, as we will ask him to guide us through the facts and myths regarding the flu. So without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Redcross for a little flu or false on-air test.
Thank you.
Welcome to Urban Update.
I'm ready for the test. Thanks for having me on, Byron.
But before I start, I mean, I've got people up in the control room already asking, is that your real name, Dr. Redcross,
yes.
or is it a stage name? You're a doctor.
I promise you, I am not that important, Byron, to have a stage name, okay? That is God-given last name.
Okay, all right, let's get with it. Okay, so flu or false? This is the test now. Flu or false? The flu vaccine can give you the flu.
That would be false. That is a big false. Don't forget that the flu vaccine is a killed inactivated virus. So I'm glad that question came up because patients ask that all of the time. Now, when you get the vaccine, can you feel chills? Absolutely. But that's your body just starting to mount a response in case it sees the real flu.
Okay. Flu or false? If you had a flu vaccine last year, you don't need one this year.
That, Byron, would also be very false because it's important. Don't forget, each and every year the flu vaccine can mutate, or actually the flu virus, I should say, can mutate. So you have to make sure that you have the newest vaccine for the year that we're dealing with.
Okay. Flu or false? You can die from the flu.
Unfortunately, that's very true. It's not only the flu virus itself, which is influenza, but it's also the dreaded complications that we see, which is pneumonia. I also talked to a colleague of mine who's a cardiologist, and he's been seeing more heart failure as well, which also can lead to death because of the flu.
Okay, that's pretty serious stuff we're talking about now. Flu or false? Another one here. If you take action in the first 48 hours, you can reduce the duration and severity of the flu.
Yeah, now that is true and very important. That 48-hour window is huge for a couple of reasons. There are some things you can look at. One is a low-cost homeopathic remedy called oscillococcinum. Now, it doesn't treat the flu, Byron, but it treats flu-like symptoms when you take it within the first 24 hours. It's also good for kids 2 years of age and older, and good for those adults who are taking several medications because there's no drug-to-drug interactions. You also can come into the office, and we can write a prescription within that first 48-hour window as well that can make a big difference.
Okay. Flu or false? A Z-Pack, or antibiotics, can cure the flu quickly.
Yeah, and that is false. Don't forget, when we're talking about antibiotics, everyone, they only help for bacteria. When we deal with influenza and even the cold viruses, they are viruses, so therefore antibiotics will have no benefit there.
Okay, flu or false? The severity of the flu is not influenced by the planets, stars, and the moon.
That would be true. It is not influenced. You know, it's funny because the flu has always been one of these kind of complicated illnesses that we never could get our mind around, even to the days of Hippocrates. And so they used to think that it was under the influence, hence influenza, of the stars, moon, and the planets, but that's not true.
Any general advice for people about the flu? I mean, I would think there were just some basic things here. That,
you know, so
some people get flu shots, some people don't.
Well, it's very controversial, and while I get it, now this year's flu vaccine looks to be about 39% effective, and that's pretty good when we come to flu viruses or flu seasons. The other thing is this is an aggressive strain. This is the H3N2 strain, and this one tends to mutate a lot throughout the year, so we have to be very careful. This is probably the more aggressive flu that we've seen in the past 10 years. We've had over 50 pediatric deaths so far, and I will say the CDC is saying 80% of those children weren't vaccinated. So it's something that we really need to come together as a community and figure out how we're going to make sure that we're all protected.
How can people get more information from you, Dr. Redcross?
Sure, so by all means, so feel free to say hello. My website is drredcross.com. On Facebook, Ken Redcross MD, and I'm also on Twitter with any questions anyone out there will have.
Okay. Now, one thing I've just kind of sort of comes to mind. We talk about how bad this flu season is, and the 100th anniversary of the Spanish flu, when thousands and thousands of people died all over the world. Do you think? Do you ever see? We could possibly see something that severe ever again, or have we advanced too far in medicine?
Well, you know, not quite. You know, we're a little nervous about that, which is why you're hearing this time all of everyone in media, our ears are perking up because it's making us nervous. To your point, this is the 100-year anniversary, and the Spanish flu actually resulted in almost 50 to 100 million deaths. So this is something that we have to make sure, along with the CDC, that we're all considering vaccinations. And I understand how controversial that is. I am Western trained on the Eastern ideas of healing. So each and every year, I don't always say just check off the flu vaccine box. So I'm definitely seeing the light when when it comes to this year.
Okay, and final word, get that flu shot every year?
Get that flu shot. And the other thing that you always have to talk about, hand washing is the key. Hand washing is the key whenever you're dealing with cold and viruses.
Okay, and we will leave it right there. Dr. Ken Redcross, thanks. I hope everybody out there passed the test.
I do too.
Thanks for filling us in on the important things to know about the very serious situation, this flu that's going around right now.
Thank you, Byron.
Okay, well, that's it for this edition of Urban Update. I'm Byron Barnett. For all of us here at Urban Update, have a great Sunday, everyone.